welcome to Yesterday, Today, Tomorrow. My name is Mariana Cordier, and I am your host. Midterm elections and the Democratic Party are working hard in our local Montgomery County. We have guests today who are going to talk about the perspective of the Democrats and politics in our area. My guests are Marko Oven, who's a contributor, Joe Vogel, who is a Democratic candidate currently for a state legislative seat, and Andrew Saundry, who's also one of our contributors. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. And let's start off with I've heard quite a bit about the Democratic Central Committee. What is it? What does it do, Marko?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having us, Mariana. I recently actually was appointed to the Democratic Central Committee. And from my understanding, and I have one of my colleagues on here, Andrew, and he can attest to this after, but there's 24 members, and basically we are in charge of the Montgomery County Democratic Party. So we do a lot of fundraising. I wanted to be on it to do more outreach with the minority community, but also the youth. There's not a lot of young people on the Central Committee, and I'm glad to be joined by one of our fellow colleagues and also Joe Vogel, who is also, we're all around the same age, which is great. But yeah, that's just, Andrew, I don't know if you want to jump in, but that's kind of from my perspective as a newer member on the Central Committee. I think we can do a lot, especially in this election, as this is one of the more important elections.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with Marko, and also thank you so much for having us today. I really do appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and with your viewers. So yeah, the Montgomery County Democratic Party is governed by the Democratic Central Committee. So in essence, we do all of the important organizational work that Marko talked about in terms of fundraising, in terms of get out the vote, in terms of voter registration. But we also have some statutory responsibilities under the Maryland Constitution to make nominations when there are vacancies in the Maryland General Assembly, as well as on boards of elections. So we do have a variety of very important constitutional roles, as well as party organizational roles that I think we all take very seriously.
And Andrew, with regard to getting and mobilizing young people to be involved during elections, why is that so hard? And the backup to that question is, what can we do to make it better?
In terms of engaging young communities, so I think that a lot of young people have felt for a very long time that they didn't see a home in the political process for themselves, and that they were looking for avenues of engagement. And a lot of young people, the first time they register to vote, they register as independents, or they register with whichever political party their parents are a member of. And I think that it is really incumbent upon us as young people and as Democrats to really step up and show young people that they've got a home here in the Democratic Party, which I think we've been doing a lot, particularly over the last couple of years, as we have gone out of our way to really engage with a couple of the big issues that young people are passionate about, the climate crisis, college affordability, affordable housing, the quality of education, a number of these really important issues, gun control, of course, that young people are really passionate about. And I think we've really stepped up to try and show them that this is an avenue for their passions.
And go ahead. I was just about to come to you, Joe, because I mean, as one of those young people who are actually running for office, talk to me about your perspective.
Well, I'm just excited to be here and excited to join Marko and Andrew. And I just to build off of what they were saying on the Central Committee quickly, they just play such an important role in building our party and helping us win elections. So a lot of what we're able to accomplish in the legislature, a lot of what we will be able to accomplish in the legislature is thanks to the work of these two in terms of getting folks out to vote and advancing progressive policies and advocacy in Montgomery County and across the state. I'll just say that one of the best ways to get young people to vote, studies have shown this, and I think the anecdotal evidence that we've gathered during our campaign as well, put young people on the ballot, right? Have young people run for office. And folks, young people are getting really excited about our campaign and Andrew's campaign and Marko's campaign because they see themselves in us, right? And the average age of a legislator in Annapolis, right? I'm running for the House of Delegates to serve in Annapolis, to represent Rockville and Gaithersburg, District 17. The average age of a legislator is more than twice my own age, right? So for so long, our generation has not seen ourselves represented in government, and that's going to change in this election. Not only thanks to us, hopefully being victorious, but also thanks to Marko and Andrew and all the other young candidates that are running and that are going to win.
And that's a great way to be energized and energize people. How difficult has it been to garner the serious attention of older voters? Because the population of Montgomery County is a little bit older. So how do you overcome that?
Well, I think people of all ages are really excited about our campaign, which has just been awesome, right? I have knocked on doors of older voters and made my case and explained why I think it's time for us to bring a new perspective, a new generational perspective, and people of all ages agree with that, right? We recognize that we've made a lot of progress as a state, but it really is time, I believe, at this once in a generation moment, as we face these generational challenges, that we bring in a new generation with the courage, the conviction, the compassion to meet this once in a generation moment. And I think people of all ages see that and are excited about that. And I think that's reflected in the support that we've seen so far, the endorsements that we've received. We are building a coalition of people from all across the district of all ages. And I think that's why we're going to be victorious on July 19th.
Marko, the politics right now is just, crazy in Montgomery County, because we've got, these midterm elections and the primaries coming. And, Maryland's a little bit different from most states in that we have a closed primary. For those who may not realize that, can you explain what that is?
Yeah, sure. So basically a closed primary means if you're registered as an independent, you can only vote in the general election. So that's extremely crucial here. And I'll just touch on it quickly because basically especially Montgomery County, every office is essentially either up for re-election or is vacant. So every single, and including actually if you go statewide, the governor, the comptroller, every single seat is available. So this is a very crucial election. So basically, what we're shooting for, and Andrew can talk about this a little more, what we're trying to do is we're really just trying to, if we canvass and talk to an independent, we just explain to them, that it's a closed primary, and that the primaries is really who you choose to go to the general election. Montgomery County is very blue. Even though I'm wearing red, it is very blue. Once we pick our candidate, it's more than hopeful that they will always win in November. So usually what I try and do is especially with the young people that look like me, that are around my age, I explain to them that, it's not just important to vote for president. These local elections are very crucial because these are the people that are going to affect your everyday life when you live here in the county.
Absolutely. And I'd like to jump in here real quick as well, just to add that the final day for Maryland voters to change their party before the election is June 28th. So I do encourage anyone who is not registered with the Democratic Party. I mean, we'd love to bring you into our big tent, but also it's another avenue for you to make your voice heard. As a member of certainly the largest political party here in Montgomery County, and to really have your say in who our nominees are going to be moving into November.
And it's fairly common, isn't it, in Montgomery County, for people to change from independent to a party so that they can participate in a primary, isn't it, Andrew?
Oh yeah, I've had a lot of friends over the years who have changed their party registration. Many of them have been persuaded by the strong platform that we offer as a party, but others have really felt tied to their independent status, and I totally understand that. But they wanted to make sure that they had an opportunity to make their voice heard in the democratic process, and so they registered as Democrats. And we welcome everybody into the party, no matter what their reason for joining us is. We hope to win your votes.
And what is the top three topics or issues, would you say, in a Democratic Montgomery County platform?
Sure. So there are certainly a lot of very important issues that we think voters are passionate about. I think at the top of almost everyone's list these days is going to be protecting the right to choice, because the Supreme Court's leaked decision to overturn Roe versus Wade does threaten the opportunity of someone to get access to reproductive care. And so that's one of the big things that we want to make sure that we're standing up for as a political party. Now, in Maryland, I think we're better off than in a couple other states where they've moved to restrict access to this kind of healthcare. But it's still important that we move forward and we try to enshrine the protections to privacy and the protections to healthcare in our laws and in our Constitution. So that's certainly number one. I think that other issues that are going to be top of voters' minds and that we stand up for as a party are going to be matters of economic rights and housing. So I think people have seen a big hit in terms of inflation recently, large, particularly at the gas pump due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And I think it's going to be very important that we move to make sure that, oh, I'm sorry for the phone ringing in the background, that we raise wages and that we make sure that people have access to the kinds of things that they need in their daily life, food, housing, and the like. And I'm just going to let the phone ring out real quick and someone else can hop on.
Well, how about you, Joe? Tell me, what do you think are the two remaining issues that Andrew hasn't touched on that are important to the Democratic platform?
Yeah, I think there's so many. And you can read up on my stances on all the issues by going to our website, which is joevogel.org. But one issue that we haven't discussed yet today is the climate crisis. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Sierra Club and the League of Conservation Voters because of my commitment to protect our environment and really push forward with bold climate action. I believe we have a shrinking window of time to really act on the climate crisis, electrify our state, decarbonize, really create a thriving climate innovation sector here in Montgomery County. I think we can have, we should lead the way on decarbonization. I want to see Maryland become the first state in the country to fully decarbonize. But I also think by boosting our climate innovation, we can have a net positive impact for the entire country. And another issue is the issue of transportation, which is closely related to the environment, right? We do not have what I consider to be a reliable, accessible, and affordable system of public transit. And I will work in Annapolis to make sure that we are bringing the infrastructure funding and that we really move forward with a bold vision for what public transit should be in our community, and a public transit system that is accessible, also to folks in the Up County, which so often, Marko and Andrew know this, both being from the Up County, so often they're neglected when it comes to public transportation. And we have people from the Up County that are sitting in parts of the district, like Gaithersburg, right, part of my district, but even further up, that spend a ridiculous amount of time sitting in traffic. Maryland has some of the longest commute times in the country. And I believe that the solution to that is to make historic investments in public transportation.
Montgomery County is just one small area in relation to the rest of the state. So, when you look at the issues on a statewide perspective, as opposed to just a Montgomery County-wide perspective, you have a lot of individuals who are, in the Republican Party or have a different perspective that you may have because of their rural constituents. How do you see Democrats and Republicans, being able to meet in the middle or compromise to reach some solutions to some of the issues facing Maryland?
Yeah, I think we have to find common ground in the issues that are affecting all of our constituencies, right? No matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, whether you live in a red part of the state or a blue part of the state, no one likes sitting in traffic. No one wants to see flooding in their communities, right? no one wants to see rural hospitals close, right? No one wants to see this gun violence epidemic continue. And we might disagree on what the solutions are, but I think what's important is that we start to agree on what the problems are, right? Because if we start by acknowledging the problems, then we can collaborate on the solutions. I think that, Maryland, for the most part, right, is often a beacon of hope for the rest of the country when it comes to bipartisan action. So many of the bills that are advanced in Annapolis happen on a bipartisan basis. And, I look forward to standing my ground when it comes to my progressive values, but also working hard to build those relationships with other Democrats from across the state and Republicans as well, so that we really get things done in Annapolis and deliver results for the families of Rockville and Gaithersburg, for the families of Montgomery County, and for families all across Maryland.
Marko, you represent quite just how you grew up and who you are, the Black and Brown community. There's always been a lot of conversation about the Hispanic vote and whether it turns out or if it doesn't turn out. What is your perspective on the participation of the minority communities?
Yeah, so I'm actually very hopeful this year because I think we have like a record-breaking, especially from the Latino side, Latino candidates, including myself, including Joe, including a bunch of other people that are either running for governor, for county council, for central committee. So I think that'll probably turn out a lot more Latinos. We've always kind of been like on the back burner of elections and stuff like that. And I think that's just because of, one, it could be a language barrier, or two, they just don't know how to get the information. So obviously, like physically knocking on the doors is how you really reach these people, or in person. That's the best way to reach the community. When I was growing up, not one candidate ever came to my house, and that's probably because I live in the middle of nowhere. But why we have like 3 acres, but also just, when I lived in Gaithersburg in District 17, we had houses around us, just no one really knocked on our door. And I think it makes that difference, and I know Joe's been out there knocking on doors, and Andrew and myself, it really makes a difference to a community if you're out there, engaging with these people, listening to them, because that's the best thing that you can do. There's been, as I think Joe or Andrew touched on it, there's been a lot of crime recently, especially in the Up County, unfortunately, and there's an uptick in crime. So especially if you're, as a candidate, but also just, as an elected official, you're listening to these communities, you're listening to the problems that they're having, and, you do your best to see if you can make something change. That's a huge benefit to the Black and Brown community. I think the Black and Brown community has been just very disproportionate in education, but also just in general. So as a Latino, as a young Latino myself, that's already on the Central Committee, that's running for re-election, that has encouraged other Latinos and Latinas to run, I think is amazing. I think the fact that Joe is running to be a Latino in the Maryland House of Delegates to represent Gaithersburg, which is one of the biggest areas, highly popularized of the Latino population in Gaithersburg, is amazing. So yeah, no, I am hopeful that the Latino community really comes out in July to vote.
So tell me, when you go knocking on the doors and you're talking to the Latino community, what are they saying to you? Are they noticing that things are changing and more energized, or is it news to them?
So sometimes they don't really know me, but they really listen because I kind of look like them, and they get excited. And I know Joe wanted to talk, so I'll just be very quick, because I think Joe can he's probably knocked more doors than I have, to be honest. But when I speak to somebody, I tell them, look, I'm on this committee. A lot of people don't know what the Democratic Central Committee is and how important it is, and they get excited because there's not a lot of Latino representation in Montgomery County, but there are a lot of people that are Latino. The people that I look up to, the people that really drove me to this position, not only my mother, of course, but also, Gay Barboños and Tom Perez. I mean, those two people really paved the way in Montgomery County for Latino men to be elected to the, and of course, Nancy Navarro. I mean, but the two people that I really look up to are Tom Perez and Gay Barboños, and they really helped just give me pointers and have, paved the way for Latino electeds, at least in the county. So when I go and knocking on a door and I explain what I'm running for, and it's really like they get happy, they get excited. They're like, oh, wow, there's a Latino on my ballot. Then of course I'm gonna vote for you because, you're a voice that we didn't know was there, but now is there.
And Joe, what about mentorship? Have you had other politicians in Maryland or Montgomery County, kind of mentor you or give you tips or encouragement with the process of running?
Yeah, and if I can just quickly touch on what you all were just talking about, in the Maryland General Assembly, so the House and the Senate, there are 188 legislators. Of 188 legislators, only 4 are Latino, 4. And if you compare that to the statewide population of 12%, Latinos make up 12% of the state of Maryland. And you look at Montgomery County, which I believe is closer to 17%. The fact that there are only 4 out of 188 is ridiculous, right? So if I can just talk directly right now to any Spanish listeners, right? Esta elección no podría ser más importante. Tenemos una oportunidad de votar para más candidatos latinos que en los últimos muchos años, y los derechos están en riesgo. Tenemos una oportunidad de elegir a demócratas de que van a luchar para prosperidad económica, van a luchar para justicia, van a luchar para igualdad, pero nada va a cambiar si no votamos. Entonces, el 19 de julio son las internas, se puede votar por el correo, se puede votar en persona, puedes ir a voyavotar.com para fijarse a ver dónde tienes que votar y dónde tienes que registrarse. So I hope that's helpful. I'm just telling folks where they can go, iwillvote.com, to figure out where to register, how to register, and where to vote. And I forgot your original question there, but I'm happy to take that as well.
Well, the mentorship, I mean, to decide to run is one thing. Know how to do it, or to be able to get advice and encouragement from those who've come before you. Have you had the benefit of any mentorship or support?
I have, and I really don't, my family immigrated to the United States from Uruguay when I was 3 years old. And I don't think I'd be doing this. I don't think I'd be where I am today if it hadn't been for, every educator, every community leader, all the mentors that stepped up to put me, to give me the opportunities that I've had and provide me this opportunity. So I think of people like Senator Cheryl Kagan, who is now endorsing my campaign, but I met when I was a high schooler, just knocking on doors for her. And I've had the opportunity to work for several, distinguished, respected elected officials across the country. I worked for Cory Booker for a couple of years, and he's someone that's been extremely helpful with my campaign in terms of giving me advice, but also just helping me recognize and helping me understand how to be an effective public servant, how to be present in the community, right? I think that the success that we've seen so far in this campaign is thanks to mentors, but what I'm more excited about is the mentorship that I'll receive, hopefully when I'm in Annapolis, to learn from folks that have been there for a while, to learn from folks who have been in public service for a while, so that I'm as effective of a legislator that I can be. I know I have a lot to learn, right? I'm young and I'm excited to learn. I'm excited to listen, and excited to continue being mentored and to be a mentor.
And Andrew, what has been, the inspiration for you to be so actively involved in politics and to, be running for the Central Committee and all the energy? Because I see you so energetic in politics. What is the inspiration, and kind of the same question to Joe, your mentorship and goal?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for that question. I think that my primary motivation has been out of a sincere passion to try and help organize in my community. So I was not actively involved in politics in many ways prior to the 2020 election, prior to the pandemic specifically. I was working minimum wage jobs, and I got laid off, and I looked around and I saw that there were a lot of families in need around me. And I thought, well, what are some things that I can do to help out? And politics wasn't the first thing that was on that list. I started volunteering at food banks, but it was certainly a piece of the puzzle, because a lot of the problems that I think our communities face are structural, and I think those can only be addressed with real policy changes. And so I started organizing in the Upcounty, where I saw that there was not a whole lot of political infrastructure in place. And I wanted to provide an outlet for members of the Upcounty community to have a platform to really speak with elected officials. And so I helped revive the Germantown Democratic Club. And I started getting involved in a lot of the different organizing things that were going on with a couple of the various Democratic clubs and with the Democratic Central Committee. And I too was appointed to fill a vacancy on the Democratic Central Committee about 1.5 years ago, with some incredible support and mentorship from the District 15 team, particularly. I live up in the Germantown part of District 15, so I would be remiss if I didn't thank Senator Brian Feldman, delegates David Frazier Hidalgo, Lily Chi, and Linda Foley, and former delegate, now Judge Kathleen Dumais, for some of the advice that they provided me in my early days getting involved.
Well, I gotta stop you there, Andrew. I'm so sorry. We have run out of time, if you can believe it. But I want to thank you all for joining me on Yesterday, Today, Tomorrow, and sharing your experiences and information. It is super important for our elections, and please make sure you vote. Get your mail-in ballots. Go to the early voting precincts. Get your vote in. So I am Mariana Cordier, your host. You can catch us on YouTube and on MCM Channel 21. Thank you, and until next time.